The Galactic Council chamber floated in the void between stars. A massive ring of metal and glass that housed representatives from 47 different species. Today, the chamber buzzed with nervous energy. Something was coming from the outer rim, something hostile, and the council needed to prepare. Captain Kim Tae-yang sat in the human delegation section, his military uniform pressed and clean. Next to him, Dr. Park Minji adjusted her glasses and reviewed notes on her tablet. They had been on the station for 3 weeks now, attending endless meetings about trade routes and mineral rights. This was their first real security briefing. High Chancellor Rick stood at the central podium, his golden feathers catching the artificial light. The avian leader's voice echoed through the translation systems. We face a potential threat. Intelligence suggests a militant force is organizing in the unclaimed territories. We must know our defensive capabilities. Ambassador Velther, an insectoid with 4 arms and a body covered in purple chitin, clicked his mandibles in agreement. All member species must submit complete armament inventories. We need data for strategic planning. Around the chamber, delegates nodded. This made sense. The Council had stood for 3,000 years precisely because it planned carefully and shared information freely. The process is simple, Rix continued. Each delegation will receive a standard datapad. List your weapons, their quantities, and their specifications. Most of you should finish within the hour. Tae-yang glanced at Minji. She shrugged. An hour seemed reasonable for a basic inventory. A small floating drone delivered a datapad to each delegation. Tiang caught theirs and activated the screen. It showed a simple form with categories: energy weapons, kinetic weapons, explosive devices, space-based systems, and other. Around them, other delegations were already working. The Krell representative, a large reptilian creature, tapped away at his pad with thick claws. The crystalline archivist Quen's people transmitted their data directly through light pulses. Everyone seemed to be moving quickly. Tae-yang opened the first category and began typing. Nuclear warheads, strategic and tactical variants, hydrogen bombs, neutron bombs. He listed the quantities carefully, checking his secure files to confirm the numbers. Minji leaned over to help, pulling up information about Earth's orbital defense platforms. 30 minutes passed. Around the chamber, delegates began standing and submitting their pads to the central system. The Krell finished. The Avian Confederation submitted theirs. The insectoid hives uploaded their data. One by one, the delegations completed their work and departed for lunch. Tae-yang was still typing. How many missile types do we have again? Minji asked, scrolling through her own files. Intercontinental ballistic missiles, submarine-launched air-to-air, air-to-ground, ground-to-air, anti-ship, anti-satellite. Tiang counted on his fingers. We need to list them all separately, right? They have different capabilities. The form says to be thorough, Minji confirmed. Another hour passed. The chamber was mostly empty now. Ambassador Velther remained at his station processing reports. He noticed the humans were still working and felt a mild curiosity. Perhaps their military was more organized than he had assumed. Humans were new to the Council, barely 15 years as members. Their planet Earth had only recently developed faster-than-light travel. Velther had read the initial reports about humanity. They came from what the Council classified as a Class 7 death world, which was unusual but not unheard of. Their technology was advancing rapidly. They seemed friendly enough, if a bit intense. Nothing particularly remarkable. He checked the submission status on his console. Most species had filed reports between 50 and 200 pages long. The human file was currently at 300 pages and still growing. Interesting. Yang moved to the next section. Directed energy weapons. He listed the laser systems, the microwave emitters, the particle beam prototypes. Then he remembered the railgun installations and went back to add those to the kinetic weapons section. Then the coil gun variants. Then the Gauss weapons. Should we include the atmospheric defense grid? Minji asked. It's a weapon system, isn't it? Yes, but it's primarily for asteroid deflection. It can target ships, though. True, adding it. The file size indicator on the datapad kept climbing. 500 pages. 600. The system allocated more storage space automatically. Velther stood and walked over to the human delegation. His forearms moved in a gesture of polite greeting. Captain Taeyang, Dr. Park, do you require assistance? Most delegations have already finished. Taeyang looked up, surprised. Oh, we're fine, Ambassador. Just being thorough. We should be done in another hour or two? 2 hours? Velther's mandibles twitched. Forgive my curiosity, but how extensive is your military? Pretty standard, I think, Taeyang said. We're just making sure we don't miss anything. There are a lot of categories. Velther returned to his station, slightly puzzled. He pulled up the human file and began reading. The weapons listed were conventional enough at first. Nuclear devices, standard across most spacefaring species. Energy weapons, nothing unusual. But the quantities seemed high. And the variations were extensive. Did humans really need 47 different types of missiles? 3 hours into the process, other council members began returning from their afternoon sessions. They found the chamber mostly empty except for the insectoid ambassador and the 2 humans, who were still typing steadily. High Chancellor Rix landed on his perch near Velther. They haven't finished? No, Chancellor. They appear to be very detailed. Rix activated his own console and scanned the human submission. His feathers ruffled in confusion. What is a thermobaric weapon? A fuel-air explosive, Velther read from the description. It disperses an aerosol cloud and then ignites it, creating a massive pressure wave. That sounds horrific. They have 72 variants. Rix blinked his large eyes. Why would anyone need 72 variants of one weapon? At the human delegation, Minji stretched her arms. Should we include the antimatter warheads? They're still experimental. The form says current and developmental systems, Taeyang replied. We should include them. Right, oh, and we haven't covered the nanomachine weapons yet. Good catch. Add a new section after chemical weapons. Velther's antennae perked up at that. Chemical weapons? He murmured to Rix. Those are banned under council law. Let me check, Rix said, pulling up the human accession treaty. Ah, humans banned chemical weapons among themselves before joining the council. The ban predates their membership. Then why list them? The form asks for armaments. Perhaps they're documenting banned weapons for historical completeness? That made sense. Velther relaxed slightly. 4 hours in, Taeyang saved his progress and stood to stretch. The file was now over 800 pages long. He looked at Minji. We're making good progress. Should we take a break? Let's finish the current section first, she said. We're almost through conventional explosives. Conventional explosives took another 40 minutes. Velther watched the humans work with growing fascination. These creatures were nothing if not thorough. He had to admire their dedication to accuracy. When his own people had submitted their armament list, it had taken perhaps 20 minutes. But then again, the Hive maintained only 6 categories of weapons: simple, efficient, humans. Apparently preferred complexity. As station time reached early evening, Taeyang finally reached what he thought was the end of the military hardware section. He looked at Minji. Did we miss anything? She scrolled through her notes. I don't think so. That covers everything currently deployed. Good. Taeyang moved to save and submit. Then he paused. Wait, he said. Should we include historical weapons? Minji looked at him. Historical? Like old equipment? Some of it's still in storage. Reserves and museums. If we're doing a complete inventory? Velther, who had been half listening, felt something cold settle in his stomach. Historical weapons. These humans had more? I should probably call Lieutenant Kong, Taeyang said, pulling out his communication device. He's the military historian. He'll know what we've kept in storage. As Taeyang made the call, Velther checked the file size again. 40-7 terabytes, for the first time in his long diplomatic career. Ambassador Velther felt something he had never experienced in the peaceful council chambers. He felt afraid. Lieutenant Kang Jiho appeared on the communication screen with a confused expression. It was 3 in the morning in Seoul, and he had clearly been sleeping. "Captain? Is there an emergency?" "Sorry to wake you, Lieutenant," Taiyang said. "We need your expertise. We're filing an armament inventory for the Galactic Council, and we need to know what historical weapons are still in reserves." Jiho blinked sleep from his eyes. "How detailed do you need this?" "Complete inventory. Complete?" "Sir, do you know how much material we have in storage?" "Every military museum, every reserve depot, The Council asked for thorough. Taiyang interrupted. "Can you help or not?" Jiho sighed. "Give me 20 minutes to get my files. I'll link in properly." While they waited, Minji noticed that a small crowd had gathered in the observation area above the chamber. Delegates who had finished hours ago were returning, apparently curious about why the humans were still working. She pointed this out to Taiyang. "Should we hurry?" she asked. "We're going as fast as we can," he replied. "Better to be accurate than quick." Ambassador Velther had indeed called several colleagues to observe. The crystalline archivist Quen floated nearby, her geometric body refracting light in patterns that indicated fascination. Security Chief Krell, a heavily muscled reptilian, stood with his arms crossed. 47 terabytes, Velther told them. "And they're not finished. What could possibly require that much data?" Quen asked, her voice like chimes. "Let's find out," Krell said, accessing the human file through his security clearance. He began reading aloud. "Nuclear weapons, fission bombs, fusion bombs, neutron bombs, cobalt bombs, salted weapons, ... He scrolled faster. "Kinetic weapons, railguns from 5 millimeters to 5 meters diameter, coil guns, Gauss rifles, mass drivers, ... More scrolling. "Explosive weapons, conventional, thermobaric, fuel-air, shaped charges, explosively formed penetrators." Quen's crystalline structure flickered. "Are all human weapons this destructive?" "Keep reading," Velther said quietly. Krell continued. "Chemical weapons, wait, these are banned." "Banned by humans themselves," Velther explained, "before they joined the Council. They're documenting them for completeness." "Nerve agents," Krell read, his voice growing quieter. "Blister agents, blood agents, choking agents, incapacitating agents." He looked up. "They categorized ways to kill people by which biological system the weapon attacks." The observation deck fell silent. Below, Lieutenant Jiho had connected properly. His image appeared on a larger screen, and he had files open on multiple displays behind him. "Okay, Captain. I have the historical archives ready. Should I start with firearms?" "Firearms?" Minji asked. "We already listed current weapons." "These are pre-space age?" Jiho explained. "Chemically propelled projectiles. We maintain significant stocks for training and ceremonial purposes." Taiyang nodded. "Include them." Jiho began listing weapons while Taiyang typed. "Assault rifles, battle rifles, carbines, submachine guns, personal defense weapons, light machine guns, medium machine guns, heavy machine guns, general-purpose machine guns." Above, Krell's scales had gone pale. "They have weapons called personal defense weapons? What do they defend against?" "Other humans, presumably," Quen said. "Sniper rifles," Jiho continued. "Anti-materiel rifles, designated marksman rifles, pistols, revolvers, shotguns." The list went on, and on minutes stretched into an hour as Jiho worked through categories that the Council had never considered. Artillery pieces, mortar, rocket launchers, grenade launchers. Recoilless rifles. What is a recoilless rifle? Velther asked, reading along. Security Chief Krell looked it up. A weapon that fires explosive projectiles without significant backward force. Designed for, and I quote, infantry, anti-tank, and anti-fortification use. Infantry? Quen asked. Individual soldiers carry weapons designed to destroy armored vehicles? Apparently. Lieutenant Jiho moved further back in history. Medieval and ancient weapons still in ceremonial or reserve storage. Crossbows, longbows, composite bows, siege engines, catapults, trebuchets, ballistae. Taiyang typed steadily. He had stopped questioning anything hours ago. If it could be used as a weapon, it went on the list. Handheld melee weapons, Jiho said. Swords, spears, axes, maces, flails, polearms, daggers, warhammers, ... They still maintain edged weapons? Velthor whispered. His species had moved past physical blades 3,000 years ago. Apparently preserved for historical purposes, Krell said. But his voice carried doubt. These humans seemed to preserve weapons. The way other species preserved art. Minji had taken over a second datapad to help with the workload. She was documenting biological weapon research programs, even though all such weapons were banned. The Council had asked for complete inventories, and the scientific databases had detailed records of every pathogen ever weaponized. Should I include theoretical weapons? She asked Taiyang, what do you mean? Research projects that never reached production. Genetic weapons, prion diseases, weaponized parasites. Taiyang considered. If we researched it, include it. Mark it as theoretical? Above, Archivist Twen had stopped refracting light normally. Her crystalline body had gone dark. They weaponized diseases? Banned under their own laws, Velthor reminded her. They're just documenting research? They research genetic weapons, Quen said, her voice hollow. Weapons designed to target specific genetic sequences. They researched ways to kill specific groups of their own species. No one responded. What could one say to that? Lieutenant Jiho had reached more recent historical weapons. Incendiary devices, napalm, white phosphorus, thermite, Greek fire variants, ... Greek fire? Krell looked it up. A burning liquid that cannot be extinguished with water. Invented over 2,000 years ago. Still manufactured. For ceremonial purposes. Velthor said weakly. The file says it's also used in modern variants for military applications? Krell corrected. High Chancellor Rix had joined the observation group. His golden feathers were ruffled in distress. How much longer can they possibly continue? Velthor checked the file size. 73 terabytes now, impossible, yet true. Below, Taiyang stretched his fingers. They had been typing for nearly 6 hours straight. Are we almost done with historical weapons? He asked Jiho. I have a few more categories, the lieutenant said. Booby traps and area denial weapons, improvised explosive devices, guerrilla warfare equipment, ... Improvised explosive devices. Minji asked. Weapons made from civilian materials, Jiho explained. There are extensive military manuals on the subject. Should I skip it? No, include it, Taiyang said. The council wanted thorough. Jiho began listing methods to create explosives from fertilizer, fuel, household chemicals, and industrial supplies. He documented designs for devices that could be built in ordinary kitchens or garages. In the observation area. Security Chief Krell had gone completely still. They trained their soldiers to build weapons from common materials. Improvised, Quen corrected. Made up on the spot. That's worse. Velthor was reading a section about something called asymmetric warfare. It described how smaller forces could fight larger ones using unconventional tactics, ambush, sabotage, psychological operations. The document was thousands of pages long. They have doctrine for this, he said. Formal military doctrine for fighting when outmatched. They expect to be outmatched and plan for it. Rick shook his head slowly. What kind of world did these people come from? A Class 7 death world, Velthor replied. But I'm beginning to understand what that really means. Lieutenant Jiho finally reached the end of his files. That covers everything in military storage and historical archives, Captain. Excellent work, Lieutenant. Get some sleep. Wait, Jiho said. Did you include improvised civilian weapons? Taiyang paused. What? Weapons that civilians might create or use. For self-defense or, in emergencies. There are extensive databases from law enforcement and security agencies. Minji looked at Taiyang. Should we? The form says armaments, Taiyang said slowly. It doesn't specify military only. Above, Ambassador Velther felt that cold fear return, stronger now. No, he whispered. Surely not. Below, Taiyang made a decision. Send the files, Lieutenant. We'll include them. Yes, sir. Transmitting now. New data began flowing into the submission. Weapon designs using household tools. Improvised explosives from cleaning supplies. Methods to weaponize farm equipment. Self-defense techniques. Using common objects, the file size counter climbed past 80 terabytes. Archivist Quen's body had gone completely dark now, a sign of severe distress in her species. They're documenting how their civilians can fight. Not just fight, Krell corrected, reading the incoming data. How they can fight effectively. These aren't desperate survival techniques. These are documented, tested, effective combat methods using everyday objects. High Chancellor Rix made a decision. I'm calling an emergency session, now. But Velther wasn't listening. He had found a section of the human file labeled dual-use items. Things. That had legitimate peaceful purposes. But could also serve as weapons, the list included. Over 10,000 entries, and it was still marked as incomplete. The emergency council session convened at 2 in the morning, station time. Delegates arrived in various states of confusion and concern. High Chancellor Rix had sent priority alerts to every member species, which only happened during genuine crises. Captain Taiyang and Dr. Park entered the chamber looking tired but satisfied. They had brought the datapad with them, though most of their work was already uploaded to the central system. We're nearly finished, Taiyang told Ambassador Velther as they took their seats. Maybe another hour or two. Velther's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme stress in his species. Captain, you've been working for nearly 7 hours. The file is over 80 terabytes. How much more could there possibly be? Oh, we haven't covered household items yet, Minji said cheerfully. Or sports equipment. Or vehicles. Or industrial tools? The color drained from Velther's chitin. Well, it would have if his species could change colors. Instead, his antennae drooped. High Chancellor Rix called the chamber to order. His voice carried none of its usual calm authority. We are gathered to discuss the human armament submission. It has raised certain concerns. Concerns? Security Chief Krell stood. Chancellor, I've spent the last hour reviewing their file. These people have documented over 70,000 different ways to kill. A murmur ran through the assembled delegates. That seems excessive, Taiyang said, genuinely puzzled. We fought maybe 1,000 major wars. The variety comes from adaptation and innovation. 1,000 major wars? Someone gasped. Give or take, Minji added. We stopped keeping detailed counts after a while. It got complicated with civil wars and revolutions and conflicts without formal declarations. The chamber fell silent. Someone coughed nervously. Archivist Quen floated forward, her crystalline body flickering with barely controlled distress. Humans, I must ask. When you encounter a new object, any object, do you immediately consider its potential as a weapon? Tiang and Minji looked at each other, thinking. Not immediately, Taiyang said slowly. Usually the first thought is about its primary purpose. But the second thought? Quen pressed. Another pause. Sometimes, Minji admitted. Is that unusual? The crystalline archivist's light went dark again. High Chancellor Rix gestured for calm. Perhaps we should review what remains to be submitted. To understand the scope. Sure, Taiyang said, pulling up his notes. We still need to cover civilian accessible items. Things that aren't designed as weapons but can be used as such. Such as? Velther asked. Though he wasn't sure he wanted to know, Minji consulted her tablet. Well, there are kitchen implements. Knives, of course, but also meat tenderizers, rolling pins, ice picks, corkscrews, cheese graters. Cheese graters? Krell interrupted. You weaponize food preparation tools? They have sharp edges and can cause severe lacerations, Minji explained. Our criminal databases document several thousand cases of assault using kitchen equipment. Several thousand, Quen repeated faintly. Should I continue? Minji asked it. No one answered. She took that as permission. Hand tools, hammers, screwdrivers, wrenches, crowbars, saws, drills, axes, hatchets. Then power tools, which are much more dangerous. Chainsaws, angle grinders, nail guns, industrial staplers. Your construction workers carry weapons? An amphibious delegate asked. They're not weapons, Taiyang corrected. They're tools. But yes, they can be dangerous if misused. Or used deliberately, Minji added. There are documented cases of all of these being used in violent crimes. Velther was taking notes, his four hands writing rapidly. What else? Automotive equipment. Cars themselves can be weapons. We have statistics on vehicular assault and terrorism. Then there are tire irons, jumper cables, jacks, engine parts. Farm equipment, Taiyang continued, reading from his own list. Tractors, combines, hay balers, wood chippers, industrial shredders. Most farm equipment is extremely dangerous. There are strict safety regulations, because they're so deadly? Krell asked. Exactly. A delegate from a peaceful herbivore species stood shakily. Your farmers operate deadly machinery? Farming is dangerous work, Minji said. Heavy equipment, sharp blades, toxic chemicals? It requires extensive training, toxic chemicals? Several voices asked at once. Pesticides, herbicides, fertilizers, Taiyang listed. Many are regulated because they can be converted into explosives. Ammonium nitrate bombs, for example. Very common in terrorist attacks before we develop better tracking systems. Your farmers have access to bomb-making materials? Rix's voice had gone very quiet. Most farmers are peaceful, Minji assured him. The regulations are just precautions. Just precautions, Quen echoed. Her light was barely visible now. Taiyang moved to the next section of notes. Sports equipment is interesting because it's designed to be gripped and swung or thrown. Baseball bats, cricket bats, hockey sticks, golf clubs, lacrosse sticks. All have been used in assaults. Tennis rackets? Someone asked weakly. Less common, but documented, Minji confirmed. Bowling balls have been used. So have pool cues, darts, archery equipment, fencing swords. Your recreation involves weapons training? Krell asked. It's just sports, Taiyang said. Though I suppose some sports did evolve from military training. Archery, fencing, martial arts? Velther's antennae perked up. Fighting techniques, Minji explained. Practiced as sport and exercise? There are hundreds of different styles. Should we document those? No. Several delegates shouted at once. High Chancellor Rix raised a wing for silence. Perhaps we should discuss this differently. Humans, is there any common object that cannot be weaponized? Tiang and Minji thought about this seriously. Paper, Minji finally said. Paper is pretty harmless. Unless you fold it right, Taiyang added. Paper edges can cut. And you can make decent weapons from cardboard if you need to. Plastic items? Veltho suggested desperately. Plastic bags can cause asphyxiation, Minji said. Plastic bottles can be filled with flammable liquid to make firebombs. Hard plastics can be sharpened. 3D printed guns are usually plastic. Fabric then, Quen said. Surely clothing is safe. Ligatures, Taiyang said simply. Belts, ties, shoelaces. Common strangulation tools. Clothing can also be used to conceal weapons or to restrain prisoners. The delegates stared at them. I'm starting to understand the problem, Minji said quietly to Taiyang. I don't think they're like us. How do you mean? Look at them. They're terrified. These are ordinary items to us, but they've never had to think this way. Taiyang observed the assembled aliens. The council represented thousands of years of relative peace. Most species had evolved on friendlier worlds. They had developed technology in stable environments. They had never needed to turn everything around them into potential weapons. Humans had never had that luxury. Maybe we should explain Earth, he suggested. Minji nodded and stood. Honorable delegates, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Earth is classified as a Class 7 death world. Perhaps you don't fully understand what that means. We've read the reports, Rick said. High gravity, aggressive fauna, unstable weather patterns. That's a very simplified summary, Minji said. Earth has predators that hunt in packs with sophisticated tactics. We have plants that can kill with toxins or allergic reactions. We have weather that can destroy cities. We have diseases that have killed millions. We have natural disasters that reshape continents. She pulled up images on the main display. Hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanic eruptions, wildfires, floods, droughts. Any of these can occur with little warning. Humans evolved learning to survive constant threats. From your environment, Velther said. But surely from each other as well? Yes, Taiyang admitted. We're a competitive species, territorial. We've fought over resources, land, ideas, religions, politics. But we've also cooperated. We've built civilizations. We've created art and music and literature. We're not monsters. Then why, Krell asked slowly, do you see weapons everywhere you look? Tiang met his eyes. Because on Earth, everything is a weapon if you're desperate enough. That's not paranoia. That's survival. We learned to use what we had because we didn't always have much. Minji added, innovation under pressure. That's the human story. We didn't develop technology in peaceful laboratories. We developed it to survive. To hunt, to defend, to build shelter, to feed ourselves. Every tool served multiple purposes because we needed efficiency. A knife cuts food, Taiyang said, and defends against predators, and harvests crops, and builds shelter. One tool, many uses. Dual-use items, Velther said quietly. That's what you called them. Everything is dual-use on Earth, Minji said. That's just life there. The chamber was quiet now. The delegates were beginning to understand. These humans weren't monsters. They were survivors from a world that had tried very hard to kill them. Their creativity with weapons wasn't cruelty. It was adaptation. High Chancellor Rick spoke carefully. How much of your submission remains? Tiang checked his notes. Maybe 20%. Vehicles, industrial equipment, chemicals, electronics. Electronics? Quen asked. Cyber weapons, Minji explained. Computer viruses, network attacks, infrastructure disruption. Then there's electromagnetic warfare, jamming, spoofing. Stop, Rick said firmly. We understand. You may consider your submission complete. But we haven't finished. It's complete, Rick repeated. What you've already submitted is sufficient. Despite the Council's instruction to stop, Captain Tiang and Dr. Park felt uncomfortable leaving the submission incomplete. They returned to their quarters on the station and spent the evening organizing the remaining sections. Even if they wouldn't officially submit them, the next morning, Ambassador Velther requested a private meeting. He arrived at the human delegation office looking exhausted. His forearms hung limply, and his antennae drooped in a way that suggested he had not slept. Ambassador, Taiyang greeted him warmly. What can we do for you? Velther settled into a chair designed for his species. I need to understand something. The Council has been discussing your submission all night. We've called in Zetup psychologists and threat assessment specialists. They need more context. About our weapons? Minji asked. About your world. Your species. Your perspective. Velther leaned forward. Captain, you said everything is dual use on Earth. I want to understand what that really means. May I see what you would have included in the remaining sections? Tiang and Minji exchanged glances. Are you sure? Tiang asked. The Council said we were done. I need to know, Velther said simply. For the security briefings. For the strategic assessments. We need to understand human capabilities completely. All right, Minji said, pulling up her tablet. We organized it by location. Home, workplace, public spaces. Should I start with the home? Velther nodded, though his mandibles clicked nervously. Kitchen, Minji began. We already mentioned knives and similar items. But there's more. Cleaning supplies under the sink. Most human homes have bottles of chemicals that can cause severe chemical burns. Bleach, drain cleaner, oven cleaner, Ammonia. For cleaning, Velther said. Yes, but they're corrosive or toxic. Mixing certain cleaners creates poisonous gas. It happens accidentally sometimes. People die. Velther made a note. Continue. Prescription medications. Most human homes have various drugs. Many are toxic in large doses. Some can be synthesized into illegal narcotics. Then there's the medicine cabinet, rubbing alcohol, hydrogen peroxide, various pills and ointments. Your healing supplies are dangerous? In the wrong amounts, yes. There's a concept we call the dose makes the poison. Almost anything can be harmful in sufficient quantity. Taiyang took over. Garage or storage areas. This is where it gets interesting. Most human homes have basic tools we already mentioned. But there's also gasoline for vehicles, various oils and lubricants, paint thinner, turpentine. Flammable liquids, Velther noted. Very flammable. We have strict storage regulations, but accidents happen. House fires from gasoline are common enough that we train firefighters specifically for them. Then there's garden supplies, Minji added. Fertilizers, as we mentioned. Pesticides, which are literally designed to kill living things. Herbicides, propane tanks for grills. Lighter fluid. Velther's writing implement trembled. Your homes are filled with explosives and toxins? Not filled, Taiyang corrected. But yes, most homes have these items. They're normal, useful, you need them for daily life. Daily life, Velther repeated quietly, Minji continued. Bathroom supplies. Cleaning chemicals again. Aerosol cans, which can explode if heated. Razors and scissors. Hairspray, which is flammable. Various cosmetics and personal care items, some containing toxic compounds. Your grooming products are toxic? Some contain chemicals that require warning labels, yes. It's about concentration and usage. Used properly, they're safe. Velther was beginning to understand the human concept of dual use in a visceral way. These weren't weapons. These were ordinary household items that every human lived with daily. Yet each could harm or kill if misused. What about children? He asked. How do you keep young humans safe in such environments? Childproofing, Taiyang explained. Locks on cabinets? Safety caps on bottles. Education about dangers, supervision. It's why human children require so much active care. The world is dangerous and they need to learn to navigate it safely. You train your young to live in dangerous environments. We train them to live in our environments? Minji corrected gently. It's not dangerous to us. It's normal. We understand the risks and manage them. Velther moved to his next question. What about public spaces? Your submission mentioned something about civilian firearms. Taiyang said. That depends on the region. Some human nations have strict gun control. Others have constitutional rights to firearm ownership. Globally, there are over 1 billion privately owned firearms. The number hung in the air. 1 billion, Velther said faintly. That's nearly one weapon for every 8 humans. It's culturally complex, Minji explained. Historical reasons, political reasons, practical reasons. In some areas, people need firearms for protection from wildlife. In others, it's tradition or sport. Some people collect them. You collect weapons. Some people do, yes. Historical pieces mostly. It's considered a hobby. Velther needed to sit down, though he was already sitting. His entire body seemed to sag. What else do humans carry in public? Pocket knives are common, Taiyang said. Keys can be used as improvised weapons. Pens and pencils. Umbrellas with pointed ends. Walking canes. Briefcases and bags that can be swung. Cell phones can be thrown or used for blunt impact. Your communication devices are weapons? They're heavy and solid. In desperate situations, people use what they have. Minji pulled up another file. Vehicles are interesting. We already mentioned that cars can be used as weapons, but trucks are heavier and more dangerous. Then there are motorcycles, bicycles, scooters. Anything with momentum can be weaponized. How do you trust each other? Velther asked suddenly. If everyone is surrounded by potential weapons, if everyone has the capacity for violence, how do you build a functioning society? The question seemed to catch Taiyang and Minji off guard. They looked at each other, then back at the ambassador. We trust because we choose to, Taiyang said slowly. Yes, everyone has capacity for violence, but most people never use it. We have laws, social norms, mutual agreements. We cooperate because cooperation works better than conflict. But the capacity is always there, Valther pressed. Yes, Minji admitted. The capacity is always there. In every human, in every home, in every interaction. We live with that reality every day. Doesn't it terrify you? No, Taiyang said. It's just how things are. We don't think about it constantly. You asked yesterday if we immediately see weapons when we look at objects. The answer is no. We see tools, items, useful things. The weapon potential is just background knowledge. Valther tried to imagine living that way. Every object a potential threat. Every person capable of harm. Every day navigating an environment filled with dangers. And yet humans did this so naturally they barely noticed. Tell me about your cities, he said. Urban environments. Minji pulled up more files. Cities concentrate everything we've discussed. More people, more vehicles, more infrastructure. Construction sites with heavy equipment. Restaurants with industrial kitchens. Factories with dangerous machinery. Power lines carrying enough electricity to kill instantly. Gas lines under the streets. Chemical plants. Fuel storage facilities. Your cities are built on explosive infrastructure? We need power and heat, Taiyang explained. Electricity, natural gas, petroleum products. They're distributed through networks. Yes, it's dangerous if something goes wrong. That's why we have regulations and safety systems. But accidents happen, Valther said. Accidents happen, Minji confirmed. Explosions, fires, chemical spills. We have emergency services. Firefighters, paramedics, police, hazardous material teams. We've built entire professions around managing danger. Valther looked at his notes. Pages and pages of items that humans considered normal, but that would be classified as security threats on any council world. And this was their daily life. This was ordinary. The hostile force from the Outer Rim, he said quietly. The reason we requested armament inventories. We've been analyzing how to defend against them. But now I'm wondering if that's the right question. What do you mean? Tiang asked. I'm wondering if we should be warning them about you. Silence filled the room. Ambassador, Minji said gently, we're not aggressive. We didn't start this conflict. I know, Valther said. That's not what I mean. I mean that you come from a world that has been trying to kill you for your entire evolutionary history. You've survived not by being stronger or faster, but by being more clever, more adaptable, more willing to turn everything around you into tools for survival. He gestured at the tablet. This list. 89 terabytes of data. And it's still incomplete. You've documented thousands of ways to fight, to defend, to attack, to survive. You've turned your entire civilization into a potential weapon. Not because you're warlike, but because that's what survival required. We prefer peace, Taiyang said. I believe you. But you're also prepared for war in ways that no other species in the Council can match. Not because you have better weapons, though you do, but because you see the potential in everything. You can fight with military equipment or with kitchen knives, with vehicles or with hand tools, with chemicals from under your sink or with rocks from the ground. Valther stood, his forearms spread in a gesture of acknowledgement. The Council has been discussing whether humanity represents a threat. We've been wrong. The full Galactic Council assembled 3 days later for what would become one of the most significant sessions in its 3,000-year history. Every delegation had been briefed on the human armament submission. Xenopsychologists had prepared reports. Security analysts had run scenarios. The council chamber buzzed with nervous energy. Captain Taiyang and Dr. Park sat in the human delegation section, still confused about why their simple inventory had caused such concern. They had dressed formally for what they were told would be an important session, but no one had explained the agenda. High Chancellor Rix called the chamber to order. His golden feathers were immaculately groomed, but his eyes showed the strain of several sleepless nights. Distinguished delegates, we gather to address the matter of human military capabilities and their integration into Council defensive planning. Ambassador Valther stood at the central podium. Over the past days, he had become the Council's primary expert on humanity. Having spent hours reviewing the submission and interviewing the human delegates, I will begin with context, Valther said, his forearms gesturing to the display screens around the chamber. Humanity comes from Earth, a Class 7 death world. Before we continue, we must understand what this truly means. Images appeared on the screens. Earth's weather patterns showing hurricanes that could flatten cities, tectonic activity demonstrating earthquakes and volcanic eruptions, wildlife footage of predators hunting in coordinated packs, plants that could poison with a touch, microscopic organisms that cause devastating plagues. Earth has tried to kill humanity for their entire existence, Valther continued. They survived not through strength or speed, but through intelligence and adaptation. They learned to use everything around them as tools. For hunting, for defense, for construction, for survival. He pulled up statistics. In their pre-space history, humans experienced approximately 1,000 major armed conflicts. They developed weapons using every available resource: stone, wood, metal, chemical compounds, biological agents, atomic energy. They weaponized everything they discovered. Murmurs ran through the chamber. These facts had been in the reports, but hearing them spoken aloud made them more immediate. The armament submission, Valther said, contains 89 terabytes of data. It documents over 70,000 distinct weapon systems. This includes military hardware, historical weapons, improvised devices, and dual-use civilian items. He paused, letting the number sink in. To put this in perspective, the next most extensive submission was from the Krell Dominion at 4 terabytes. The average submission was under 2 terabytes. Humanity's submission is 44 times larger than the second-place entry. Security Chief Krell stood. I have reviewed the human submission extensively. I want to address a common concern: are humans abnormally violent? After careful analysis, my conclusion is no. This caused surprised reactions. Humans are not more violent than other species, Krell explained. They are more creative about violence. This is an important distinction. Many species have higher rates of interpersonal conflict. Some have more aggressive territorial instincts. But humans have an unmatched ability to turn any resource into a weapon. He displayed a simple chart. A human kitchen contains approximately 15 items that could cause death or serious injury if misused. The equivalent space in a Krell dwelling contains perhaps 3. In an avian home, maybe 2. This is not because humans are more dangerous. It's because they require tools that are inherently more versatile and powerful to manage their difficult environment. Archivist Quen floated forward, her crystalline body refracting light in complex patterns. I have studied human cultural development. What we see as weapons, they often see as tools. A knife is primarily for food preparation. That it can also defend against predators is secondary. This dual-use thinking is foundational to human civilization. She displayed images of human artifacts. Consider this item, a hammer, designed for construction, but the same properties that make it good for driving nails make it effective as a weapon. Humans don't build weapons into their tools deliberately. Their tools simply must be robust enough to function in their environment, which makes them inherently dangerous. Another delegate, a peaceful herbivore species, spoke up nervously. But the submission included weapons designed purely for killing. Military hardware with no civilian purpose. Yes, Taiyang said, standing. May I address that? Rix nodded permission. We do have weapons designed for warfare, Taiyang admitted. Every spacefaring species does. But our submission was larger because we documented everything. Historical weapons we've moved past but still maintain. Theoretical weapons we researched but never deployed. Banned weapons we've cataloged to prevent their use. We were thorough because the Council asked we're thorough. Perhaps too thorough, Minji added quietly, standing beside him. We're realizing now that other species don't think about these things the way we do. We've lived with danger our whole lives. It shaped how we think, how we plan, how we build our civilization. She looked around the chamber. We're not trying to intimidate anyone. This is just how we are. We're prepared for threats because Earth taught us that threats are constant. We're adaptable because inflexibility means death. We're creative about survival because creativity is what kept us alive. The chamber was quiet. Many delegates were seeing humanity in a new light. Not as warmongers, but as survivors who had been forged by a world that showed no mercy. High Chancellor Rix spoke carefully. The Council must make several decisions. First, regarding the defensive planning that prompted these submissions. Second, regarding humanity's role in Council security. And third, regarding the threat from the Outer Rim. He looked at his fellow Council members. I propose that humanity be assigned primary responsibility for defensive strategy in Sector 7, where the hostile force has been detected. That's our sector, Taiyang said, surprised. Yes, Rix confirmed. Based on your submission, your species has more experience with conflict than the rest of the Council combined. You understand warfare in ways we don't. You see tactical possibilities we would never consider. You can use resources we would overlook. Ambassador Velther added, we're not asking you to fight alone. Council forces will support you. But we need your expertise, your creativity, your survival instincts. Security Chief Krell stood again. I have a recommendation. The hostile force has been probing our borders for months. They've been studying our defenses, analyzing our capabilities. I propose we share a portion of the human armament submission with them. What? Several delegates asked simultaneously. The public-facing sections only, Krell clarified. Nothing classified. Just enough to let them know what they would face if they attacked a Council world defended by humans. Velther's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Psychological warfare. Exactly, Krell said. Let them see what humans can do. Let them understand that the Council has allies who have spent their entire evolutionary history learning to survive and fight. It might make them reconsider their plans. The vote was quick. The proposal passed overwhelmingly. 2 weeks later, a carefully edited version of the human armament submission was transmitted to the hostile force's last known position. It contained no classified information, no actual specifications. Just categories, lists, quantities, enough to give a sense of scale. 4 weeks after that, the hostile force sent a communication to the Council. They were withdrawing from the region. They cited strategic reassessment as the reason. They would not be making any hostile moves toward Council space. In the Council chamber, delegates celebrated this bloodless victory. No shots fired. No ships lost. The threat had simply decided that attacking wasn't worth the cost. Ambassador Velther found Captain Taiyang and Dr. Park in the celebration. You did it, he said. You stopped a war without fighting. We just submitted an inventory, Taiyang said, still looking bemused. No, Velther corrected. You showed them what humanity is capable of. You demonstrated that the Council has allies who are survivors from a death world, who have experienced 1,000 wars and learned from each one, who can fight with advanced technology or with household items, who see weapons in everything because they had to. He gestured around the chamber. Every species here is celebrating, not because we won a battle, but because we didn't have to fight. Your reputation alone was enough? Minji smiled slightly. So we're the scary ones now? Terrifying, Velther confirmed. But also the most valuable allies in the galaxy. Because you don't want war. You just know how to win it if necessary. Later, in private, the Council passed one more resolution. It was classified at the highest level. Only senior delegates knew of its existence. Resolution 44-3. Under no circumstances shall any council member species or ally take hostile action against humanity or their homeworld. Should any external force threaten Earth, the full resources of the Galactic Council shall be deployed in its defense. The reasoning was simple and practical. Humanity had submitted an 89-terabyte document detailing how they would fight if threatened. Every analyst who reviewed it reached the same conclusion: you didn't want to be on the receiving end of human creativity applied to warfare. Better to make absolutely certain humans remained allies